Are you ready to get started to create our first report layouts? Well, let's have a look at how we can do this with the report builder. So here in the application, we have our data model. Remember, we have the item and the item ledger entries. And I'm going to use report builder to create a layout. To do that, I'm going into the view menu and I'm going to select the layout option. This is going to open report builder. And in the beginning, I will have an empty layout. So as you will notice here, we have actually the body of our report that's completely empty. On the left side, we can see our data set. And the name of our data set is always dataset result. And there is always only one. And in the data set, we have all of our fields available. And for every field, there is one column in here, except for decimal fields, which we have a field that represents the value and a field that represents the format, and that we are going to use in the format property. We also have our parameters, and the parameters collection will contain the captions and the labels that we have defined for our report. So in this case, I have my captions, and I have the report name as a label. Besides that, on top, we also have some built-in fields that we can use in the layout, for example, to display page numbers or to work in expressions. But I'll come back to that later. So let's get started to be able to create our layout. I'm going to make use here of the insert menu. The insert menu is actually our toolbox. It contains our report items, which are text boxes, images, and so on, our data visualization tools, and the data regions. I'm always going to start with a data region because we require a data region to be able to repeat information. And we can do it in a table layout or in a matrix layout or in a list layout. Now the list layout is actually used for workarounds. For most reports, we are going to use a matrix or the table. Even when you start with the table, you can still convert it into a matrix. So let me do this. The advantage of using Report Builder is that we are able to use a wizard, which will guide us step by step on how to create the layout. Once we start the wizard, you will see that you can select your dataset result in here, and I'm going to click on the next button to continue. Here, I will be able to display or decide which fields I would like to display in my layout. So it's an inventory by location report. The inventory is actually the sum of the quantity. So I'm in the sum values, I will drag my quantity field. Then I would like to see it by location. So I will select the location code as a column group. And also would like to see this by item. So I will use here the item field. So it's the quantity by location by item. And for the quantity, to be able to calculate the inventory, I will use the sum aggregation. As you can see, and you can use different kinds of aggregations. So this is how we are going to map our fields from our data model into actually our layouts. The next thing will be to decide how interactive we would like to make our layout. Would we like to have subtotals, yes and no? And do I need to also implement expand collapse? In the next part of the wizard, we are able to select a style. Depending on the style that you are going to select, you will see different colors in the reports. So I will use, for example, the ocean style. Now our report, actually our design is almost ready, and we are ready to test it. How am I going to do this? Well, first I'm going to save my layouts. Then I'm going to minimize or close Report Builder. I will go back into the report dataset designer. Then you need to click on a line in here which is not selected. And the system is going to ask you to import the layout that you have just created in Report Builder in a report object. I'm going to click on yes. And then I'm going to save my report object. So the layout is also saved in the object in the database. I'm going to do it 2 times. And then I'm going to run my report to have a look at the results. If I click on the preview button, what we are going to notice is the report layout is ready. And I'm seeing actually all of my items. I can see all the location codes. And if I scroll down a little bit, you will be able to see the inventory by location. Now there are still some fields or some columns that are empty, but I'm going to solve this later by, for example, applying filters in the layout. This is actually a quick demonstration on how we can use Report Builder to get started to create a layout by making use of a wizard. So when we use a report builder to create our layout, we noticed some interesting features of report builder. Let's summarize them here on the presentation. So report builder has some very interesting features. First, I might not have shown you, but if you go into the view menu, you can, for example, enable or disable some parts. You can hide or show a ruler. You can hide or show the properties, the grouping pane, and the report data. And at the right bottom of the screen, we also have the possibility to zoom in and zoom out, which is very interesting to have. Also very interesting is that in Report Builder, we have the possibility to use wizards. For all of my data regions, the table and the matrix, I can make use of the wizard to very quickly create a report, which is actually ideal if I'm going to prototype. After I have created my report, I can then finish it in Report Builder, or I can make use of Visual Studio to enhance the layout.